Fantastic. It's all about overcoming difficulty. It feels like we've been through team building already.
Market access is all about persistence.
So I'll go ahead, Sam, and if you have any problems hearing me, just let me know. Um, Thank you for the introduction. And first of all, I'd like to say that I'm very pleased and honoured and excited to have the opportunity today to be part of the Market Access Roundtable and to share my experience with you. So thanks for the opportunity. I'm going to describe our technology briefly, and then how we decided where to focus and how we went about gaining market access. So first, a bit of background on ReaPlate, our company and our technology. ReaPlate was founded in 2008. We are based just north of Copenhagen in Denmark, and we now have a company based in the US and Texas. We provide a biologic therapy for wound healing called 3C Patch. And our 3C Patch system comprises of a disposable kit combined with a tabletop proprietary centrifuge. And basically, we have a kit in which we provide, and in the kit, we provide, if I can get it, a device which is used, it's filled with a small sample of the patient's own blood, and that is then processed in a three-step automated process at point of care, where the 3C Patch system, together with the centrifuge, coagulates compact the blood components into a solid patch. And this comprises of a concentration of proteins, active cells, and growth factors. So in our system, without any reagents or additives, just the patient's own blood, we basically take liquid blood and transform it into a physical patch, 2 centimeters in diameter. It's a disc, and as I said, it's demand and then placed on a wound to boost wound healing. And the treatment is repeated once a week for several weeks. And this, in fact, has been shown to double the chances of healing a non-healing wound. So basically, we are Medtech. We're medical technology, but we're providing the clinician with the 3C Patch system so they can create a personalized biologic therapy from the patient's own blood. And of course, a critical question when we have a neat technology like this that can help patients is where, as Sam said, it's key to know where to win. Where do we want to go? Which market and why? And our technology can be used on many types of wounds. So the first question for us was which indication to turn to. We did some market research and we chose diabetic foot ulcers. And just very quickly, a thumbnail for you. If you have diabetes, you have a 1 in 4 chance that you will get a foot ulcer during your life. And 60% of foot ulcers are hard to heal. That is, they do not respond to current best standard of care. They remain unhealed. So there's a lot of unhealed diabetic foot ulcers out there. And this obviously results in a cost burden related to those wounds. For example, in the US healthcare system, the cost burden is $17 billion a year, which is higher than each of the 5 most costly forms of cancer. So DFUs severely affect quality of life, carry a significant socio-economic impact, and this is a high unmet need indication. Also, DFUs are small, and that means that 90% can be treated with our 2.5 centimeter diameter patch. So this is a sweet spot size for a sweet spot indication. So that's the indication focus, and the reason for mentioning all that is to understand right from early stages, know your market, know where you're going to focus. And that basically, that indication focus is based on good market research and understanding that. The other piece is where, geographically, as Sam said. And basically, in advanced wound care, there is a biologics segment. This is made up of products, donated human tissues, cultured donated cells, animal-derived collagens. Globally, that's a $1.4 billion market, and it's growing at 7%. But what's really interesting about that market is that it's 90% in the USA. So this clearly makes the USA the go-to market. There's an existing commercial ecosystem of advanced products with high attractive reimbursement rates, where our personalized 3C Patch approach could be innovative and disruptive. So we always say, would you rather be treated with a donated tissue from another person or from a pig, or be treated with a patch made from your own blood? And that's a value proposition in itself. So basically, we've able to identify a high value growth market open to innovative advanced products, and that is very focused in the USA. So our learnings I would share with you would be do your market research, understand where and why you can make an impact. And we did this using a focused market research firm and a lot of augmentation from our own market intelligence. So that's good. We knew from that work that the USA was our go-to market, and it was attractive due to that high reimbursement paradigm, and the opportunity and openness to disruptive innovation. But the question, of course, is how do you get into that market? And this is where we come to market access. So very early on, we focused on finding out where DFUs, diabetic foot ulcers, were being treated and how it was paid for. And again, that's more market research. And it turns out that 70% of diabetic foot ulcers are covered by Medicare. That and the rest of them, and the rest of the market, the other 30%, Veterans Administration, private insurers, they follow what Medicare does. So it's a Medicare-driven market, and obtaining reimbursement through CMS, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, is very, very important. So understanding what was needed and how to go about engaging with CMS and understanding how to unlock Medicare reimbursement was of key importance to build value in this business that we have. We identified and engaged very early on a credible advisor, knowledgeable in our field, who was in and out of CMS on a regular, daily basis, knew the CMS systems, knew the way they thought, and some approach to be able to engage the right advisor early, who knew how to interact with CMS and knew what needed to be done when, and how, importantly, how and when to push. But what we did next was really key, and that's probably the main message of my case story for you today, because this is where the value was created in our business, I believe. We did our work and discovered that blood-derived products like ours, CMS had made a non-coverage decision. There was no reimbursement, and based on that fact, there was not. They based that on the fact that there wasn't enough clinical evidence that such products, blood-derived products, were needed and necessary. So what we did is we engaged hand in hand with our advisor in a dialogue directly with CMS. We talked to CMS. We used that input when designing a large, independently run, randomized controlled trial. We went back and forth with CMS. We included in our trial protocol specific follow-up periods suggested by CMS. We got CMS's agreement to methodologies on such things as how to do regression analysis that would be applied to equalize treatment group and control group, things like age and initial wound size. And basically, we worked through a process of agreeing up front with CMS that they would accept the structure of the trial and they would accept European data. And basically, that if the trial read out as anticipated and was published in a peer-reviewed journal, that they would then reconsider their non-coverage position. So we moved forward on that basis. A few years ago now, we raised capital and we funded a 269-patient, large-scale, randomized controlled trial in 3 European countries across 30 centers on hard-to-heal diabetic foot ulcers, our chosen indication. That trial took around 4 years to complete, and we continued to report with CMS quarterly on our trial progress. It did complete the trial. It read out with a positive result with a nice p-value, 0.023, which means it was highly significant statistically, and it was published in the Lancet. And subsequently, the data and the publication was reviewed by CMS, and they gave a positive reimbursement decision early this summer and reimbursed us at $1,700 per patient visit. So now we're in a really exciting position as a business. We're super excited about moving forward to build commercial proof of principle. Now that we have our reimbursement level, we know how our customers are going to get paid and where we can position ourselves. And we've put our own sales team in place in the USA. And our learnings from all that really are engage early with CMS, use their inputs. We use their inputs to ensure the trial outcome satisfied their data needs, to give them what they needed to make a positive reimbursement decision. So our journey has been one where strategically using the right advisors at the right time to gain insights, to make the decisions, has allowed us to win. We've got a very focused idea of where, and we now have achieved that reimbursement goal. And regarding market access planning, what I would say is from the beginning, you need patience, especially when dealing with CMS, and you need focus, and you need to embed your market access strategy into your development and clinical evidence program right from the start. So that's been our journey and the learnings we've had, and we're really excited to move forward. And now that we've got this reimbursement in place, that in turn, of course, unlocked our recently completed $23 million equity raise, which I'm sure Sam will comment on. So I hope technically, and thank you for the opportunity to go through that with you.
Thank you very much, Graham. Indeed, Luxera feels really privileged to have had the opportunity to participate in Reaplix's Series E financing that we closed in July on the back of the reimbursement announcement by Medicare in March of 2020. And I think one of the things that really attracted us to this company and this management team was really attacking the where to win and how to win in a very clear way. So where to win, the United States of America. Why? Because from a prevalence and pricing standpoint, more than 80%, probably more like 90% of the global diabetic foot ulcer therapy market is in the United States. And then how to win, the company methodically worked with CMS to design and execute an incredibly convincing clinical investigation, which unlocked a highly attractive reimbursement code, which drives 2 to 3 times more profitability per patient visit for U.S. hospitals. And so we're absolutely delighted to have the chance to be working hand in hand with Graham and his team to drive successful commercial adoption in the U.S. I think Whitney Sipes and Allurion Technologies is another really good but very different example of market access success. Reaplix is a breakthrough European company trying to find its footing in the United States through, I would say, Medicare, very traditional reimbursement angles. Allurion is an American company doing the opposite, going to Europe to drive value, and doing it not through traditional reimbursement, but rather through cash pay, which requires a very different approach. Whitney, if you could first just share a bit of background on the product itself, and then talk about how the company figured out where Allurion needed to win, and then how Allurion has won.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Levy. So just a little bit about the Allurion program. So the Allurion program features the Ellipse gastric balloon, and it's placed in an outpatient setting where it's swallowed by the patient, then filled with 550 milliliters of fluid, and then over the course of 16 weeks, it naturally disappears via a patented release valve. During this time, and in fact over 6 months, patients are provided 360-degree weight loss experience, which includes a full digital program that includes a Bluetooth scale that is actually a Bluetooth body composition scale, an app that connects to the body composition scale, but also tracks key trends in body composition, tracks a patient's steps connected to a fitness tracker, as well as allows the patient to send all of this data to their healthcare team or loved ones. We launched in around 2016 in Europe, and we're now in 34 global countries. And as Dr. Levy said, we are fully cash pay. And over the last year, we've become the global market leader. So just a little bit about where we decided to win. So we first launched in Europe, and that was really due to regulatory timeframes within the US. However, this paradigm has started to definitely change for some global approvals, with some of the regulatory bodies within Europe becoming more strict. Additionally, we first decided to enter markets with a lower friction path forward by entering some existing large gastric balloon markets. So for example, some of our large gastric balloon markets we entered at first were Spain, Kuwait, Italy. And we decided to do this first versus investing significantly in creating brand new markets. Then we move forward to enter smaller gastric balloon footprint markets, but where our market research told us that we could have significant success in growing and converting that market with the new category of product that we'd created. So for example, we then entered markets like Chile, where before we entered the market, there was only about 500 gastric balloons placed a year. But now there's over 2,000 placed a year, and we represent 85% of that market share. And that's because we've successfully created a new category of medical device. So Dr. Levy also asked, how we decided to win. So when the Ellipse gastric balloon was created, we knew that reimbursement was unlikely for around 10 plus years, given really the payer data requirements and the large sample size clinical study needs. So we had to build a cash pay model based on significant market research to really help us meet key cash pay components. So I'm going to go into that just a little bit now. So there's some real keys for a very successful cash pay commercialization. And when I talk about successful cash pay commercialization, I always think about three critical stakeholders. So you've got the consumers, you've got the clinics or the healthcare providers, and then you also have, of course, the company, which needs to be set up just a little bit differently than a company focused on reimbursement. So first, let's talk about the stakeholder, which is the consumer. So there's two key pillars that need to be met for successful cash pay commercialization for a consumer. And that is first having a disruptive innovation that solves an unmet need for a significantly large patient population. And the second is having an extremely convenient product with a great patient experience compared to alternatives. So for example, the Allurion Ellipsis gastric balloon alternatives involve surgery, endoscopy, or anesthesia, which are all somewhat invasive and somewhat risky procedures. So when a consumer becomes aware of the Ellipse gastric balloon, they're willing to pay cash to get their desired results. So this would be similar to Botox versus upper facelift, or cool sculpting versus liposuction. Additionally, the procedure is so convenient that it doesn't disrupt daily life. They don't need to miss days of work and whatnot, something like bariatric surgery would do. So we've talked just a little bit about the key factors that need to be met for successful cash pay commercialization for a consumer. So now let's talk about the clinic. So I like to think about it as there's three key pillars that need to be met for successful cash pay commercialization for a clinic. So those are creating a new patient flow, profitability per hour, and I mean high profitability per hour, and lastly, very high patient satisfaction. So for example, a number of the clinics that we enter are current, let's say, bariatric surgery centers, where they have a current flow of bariatric surgery patients. However, as our market research has shown, and we did 10,000 consumer market research, it showed that consumers are 6 times more likely to seek a non-invasive option, which is why only 2% of the patient population that actually qualifies for bariatric surgery ends up getting bariatric surgery, despite the fact that it's fully reimbursed in many markets. So what that shows is that we, in fact, provide clinics a product that helps them reach an entirely new target audience of patients. We're not cannibalizing their current patient flow. And they wouldn't have been able to previously attract this new target audience. And we're able to do that at a very high profit per hour for the clinic at a very high patient satisfaction. So now we've talked about the consumers and the clinics. So let's talk about the last key stakeholder, and that of course is a company. And cash pay companies need to be set up slightly differently than a full reimbursement model company. So it is critical for a cash pay organization to help healthcare providers and their clinics really drive targeted demand in a cost-effective manner through targeted direct-to-consumer advertising that is sophisticated yet very simple. And they need to be able to measure this. So for example, we measure our direct-to-consumer advertising at the global level, then at the country level, then down to the city, and of course down to the individual clinics that we partner with. So for example, some of the individual clinics that we're partnering with to drive direct-to-consumer advertising, we're returning an ROI of over $24. So it's critical that a cash pay business is set up correctly to really manage their spend, also to be able to do targeted and localized advertising for the different markets, and be able to measure it all the way through. So Dr. Levy, I believe I answered your questions on a little bit about the Allurion product and where to win and how to win. So I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you very, very much, Whitney. I think in the interest of time, since we started a little bit late, we're gonna stop early. But I just wanted to highlight a few of the key elements here. We tried to share two extremely different case studies: a European company with a breakthrough technology leveraging traditional reimbursement paradigms in the United States, an American company leveraging, I would say, a somewhat original path to a successful commercialization, cash pay with a strong focus on Europe. Both these companies have had a lot of success raising attractive financing and driving value creation through a well-thought-through market access strategy. And I think one of the key aspects of the success of both companies was planning early on. You know, the market access isn't something to start thinking about in year 10 of a company. Market access is something to think about before you set off to really, you know, dedicate full time to your company. It's so painful to spend 10 years developing a fantastic technology that then no one will pay for. And so really implementing a thoughtful approach to where to win and then how to win is absolutely critical from the outset. Thank you so much for participating in this great session, and thank you for our speakers.